Live from the Bayside Bunker, it's another edition of Bettin and Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, and this episode 157 is brought to you by our good friends and sponsors of the show, TwinSpires. This Saturday, Churchill Downs rolls out its Stars of Tomorrow card featuring a full day of racing just for exclusively 2-year-olds. Two key Grade 2 events, including the Kentucky Jockey Club and the Golden Rod Stakes, headline the program, offering valuable qualifying points towards the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks. Make sure that you play the Win Ladder promotion on Saturday at Churchill Downs. Opt in and place a $5 or more single horse win wager on selected races, and each winning wager moves you up the win ladder. The more races you win, the bigger your share of the $3,000 prize pool. And don't miss out on Sunday's Late Pick5, $3,000 hit it and split it at Churchill Downs. Opt in on your app and hit the Late Pick5 for it's a $3 base for your chance to split the $3,000 prize pool. Again, go to TwinSpires.com, visit the offers page, or on the TwinSpires app. Welcome in, everyone. Thank you guys all so much for joining the show. I greatly appreciate it, of course, and thank you to our good friends over at TwinSpires for sponsoring the podcast. But again, thank you guys all so much for joining the show. I greatly appreciate it. If you like the podcast tonight, or I've been coming back on the regular and you aren't subscribed yet, why not? You're already coming back anyway. Please go down below the video player, hit the like button, and hit the subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it, because not only is it the best way to help out our channel, but it also pushes these videos out and others into YouTube's algorithm to hopefully bring more horse players to the HHH Racing Podcast. And of course, for that, we thank you. Also, scrolling on the bottom of the screen is our normal podcast schedule for every given week. Every single Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern is Pacific Horseplayers with Ryan, Noah, and Jackson. Of course, we are normally on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern with myself and Patrick, but also, and Noah as well. But of course, we're here coming to you live on Tuesday, as it is Thanksgiving week. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. Of course, we're thankful for every single one of you that watches the HHH Racing Podcast. And normally every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern is Picks and Ponies, hosted by Howard with co-hosts Pete and Paul. Of course, they will be on our normal time slot Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, covering a very fun Del Mar festival, along with Pacific Horseplayers, who is also covering that Del Mar Turf Festival weekend. It's going to be a fantastic week of racing. Again, as I mentioned, happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. I know, obviously, we have some Canadian viewers that this doesn't apply to, but to all my American viewers, happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully, you guys are spending time with your friends and family over the special holiday and getting a nice deserved time off of work. But also, you can spend that day off of work watching our podcast either on YouTube or in audio form. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor is where you can find those. So please go rate, review, and subscribe over there if that interests you. You have TikTok and Instagram at Bettin and Boozin Podcast. Again, guys, I'm going to have a ton of content coming out. The championship meet at Gulfstream Park starts on Thanksgiving Day, and I will be continuing to go all the way through March. Basically, I'm going to start going every single Saturday that I can. So if that interests you guys, I'm going to put a bunch of my picks on there, get a bunch of views of the racing. Again, if that interests you, TikTok and Instagram, you go into the search bar, Bettin and Boozin Podcast, and please hit the follow button over there. We'd greatly appreciate it. Of course, our TwinSpires friends, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up our brand new show, The Leaderboard, that goes on normally every single Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern, brought to you by TwinSpires. Live money contest strategy, recaps and previews of the previous contests of the weekend, but also next week's contest preview. Howard, Noah, Jackson, Matt Miller, a ton of good information. Especially, you don't have to be well versed in contests at all. This is for both new contest players and skilled contest players alike. Come join the conversation over on the leaderboard. Again, normally Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. So let's get right into the handicapping. But of course, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about our power picks over on patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. We do a ton of good work over there, if I do say so myself. A ton of good information sent to you every single Saturday for only $5 a weekend, and they really pay for themselves, guys. As unbiased as I can be, it only costs you $5 a weekend, and we give out 5 spot plays. One of those hits, you guys have paid for your entire week and maybe your entire month, depending on the price. But for 4.5, almost 5 years now at this point, we're well and truly in the positive. $2.06 on the ROI for those 5 years running. So again, if that interests you at all, which it should, because again, we do a lot of good work over there and like to give you guys some winners. Patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. The link is also in the description below. And if you guys want to learn more about our podcast or see previous editions of these power picks before you buy them, please head on over to HHHRacingPodcast.com. Take a deep breath after all of that talking. I know that's the last time you're going to want to hear me talk for a while, so I get to bring on my lovely co-host, of course, for the night, the host of Pacific Horseplayers from the University of Kentucky, but now looking a little different in the room out there, with little rainbows in the back. Noah, what's going on, my friend?
What's going on? Doing all right. I guess first thing, happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. And second thing, hats off to you for getting through all of those ad reads and all that good stuff. I mean, we're almost 8 minutes into this show, and just goes to show that all the good stuff that we've got going on, and we're going to continue to do that into 2026. So hop on the train and let's go.
I know, like I said, that's the beauty of it, right? Obviously, you guys all can clown me for talking like Charlie there for 7.5 minutes straight, but again, that's the beauty of it. It's all the opportunities that you guys have allowed us, and that's obviously why this Thanksgiving we're very thankful for all of you guys watching the show. Katie, of course, is here bright and early. Ralph Conti, happy Thanksgiving to you as well. My friend Mark Bogas is here. Let's talk some horses. Absolutely. Terry Frank is here. Thomas Benoza is here. The boss man is here, of course. Hello, Howard. Thanks for joining in. Greatly appreciate it. Lois Sire is here. Thanks so much for joining the show. Ed Burke is here. Go Blue, my see. This guy knows. This guy's a knower for sure. Mom, thanks so much for joining the show. I greatly appreciate it. Chris Couples, I should do late night infomercials. I've been told I have the voice for it, Chris. I gotta work on it. Get a little more breath in the lungs. I gotta just, ask Charlie again for a little bit of training on that. Noah, again, this is a fantastic sequence. There's a ton of horses in this late pick 5 and some really nice horses at that. In this late pick 5, we got 10, 11, 12, 9, and 10 entrants in all of these races, including the Miss Revere Stakes, which is a grade 2, and the grade 2 Clark, which is the feature on the card with some very, very nice older dirt horses in that contest. But the late pick 5, Noah, starts in race number 8. So cheers to everybody out there. And of course, we got to start it out with the Bears. The Bears doing so well now at 8-3. Play on Black Friday. We got the Eagles coming up. Obviously, that'll be a little bit of a test, but I got to catch up to your Rams, man. The Rams are probably the best team in football right now.
They look good on Sunday night. I'll tell you that. I'd watch out if I was a Bears fan.
Well, considering that the man behind the helm has 30 touchdowns and 2 picks on the year, that's a pretty good stat line. Basically on track for the best spread between touchdowns and interceptions we've ever seen. So obviously for you, I hope that continues, but for myself, I hope that does not continue.
How about an NFC Championship game matchup? Would you be all right with that?
Oh, yeah, we'll be fine with that, of course. But we'll probably get our asses handed to us. But I would love, if the Bears just knock on wood, the Bears just make the playoffs, I will be ecstatic. But let's get right into the handicapping, Noah. Race number 8, starter allowance 30,000 to kick off the card, 6.5 furlongs on the dirt for older fillies and mares. And I put up on the screen right now a field of 10. And unlike normal, Noah, we actually have numbers and odds in the PPs. How about that? It's a gorgeous day when that happens. The morning line favorite is the number 7, Miss Ellery, the New Jersey bred for Tyler Gaffleone in the irons, 3-1 on the morning line. Your second choice, the number 4, Miss L, Francisco Arrieta in the irons, 4-1 on the morning line. Your third choice, number 8, Mez California for Jose Ortiz in the end, 9-2 on the number 8. And speaking of the number 8, very based, my friend, to start us off tonight. Number 8, Mez California for both you and I. We have the number 7, Miss Ellery, both in third. Couple different horses in second, but I'll let you go first, of course. What'd you like most about the number 8? I'm very interested to hear about Mez California.
Obviously, we've got some similar points, and I like it for the same reasons you do. First thing that kind of caught my eye was you don't typically see George Weaver claim a ton of horses at this point in his career. So the fact that he claimed her 2 back for 62.5, obviously there was something that he liked along the way. And when I kept going through her races and her replays, I just kept finding excuses. The race here at Churchill, 3 back, the winner kind of got the jump on her that day. And then the same kind of happened there at Keeneland, where there was a double-digit winner that, popped a big number that day. And I thought she ran okay, closed into that slow pace, and just, was a little unlucky to get beat by a horse that really popped a big figure that day. And last time, kind of a similar scenario where you had a horse in Brooklyn Drew who had a comfortable lead. You see the blue-coated fractions that day as well. Brooklyn Drew took him wire to wire, and this was another one. She was one of 3 horses, and actually the 2 that finished 3rd and 4th come back into this race as well. I thought she was just the one that, if you want somebody out of that race, it's the one you want, closing from far out of it, out of a slow pace. And obviously, I think she's going to get a little more pace today. The 7's got some speed. There's a little more speed maybe to her inside. So hopefully with that outside stalking trip, Jose is going to be able to work out a winning trip from there.
I agree with you completely. You have the number 7, Miss Ellery, who's very fast out of the gate. Creative Quality is not slow. And the number 5, High Summer, hasn't been slow. Oh, there's a ton of horses, at least on paper, to the inside that want to go at least a little bit for the lead. Timeform actually has just the 5 in front. I don't necessarily agree that the 5 is going to be that far out in front. However, I do think the 5 is probably the highest, the speediest of the bunch. However, Creative Quality, again, like I said, is not slow. And Miss Ellery's definitely not letting that horse get away with some slow fractions. I understand that horse is coming from route speed to sprint speed, but there still should not be that far of a gap in my mind. If there is in Noah, I really do like Mez California. And it was claimed by Reagan Swinbank, obviously very high profile connections. George Weaver takes it as well. And you mentioned it. You don't see George Weaver claiming a whole lot of horses. And the fact that Swinbank gets in on this one as well, you could tell that this one's very, very well meant. Puts right into the starter allowance company last time out, runs very well, just couldn't get there. And if there's a little bit more speed in front of her today, I really do like Mez California to spring a little bit of an upset, if you will, at somewhere around 4-1. Noah, you have the number 1 in second here in Color Me Cairo. Matt Shirer took over the training of this one 3 back and has run in the claiming level, won very nicely, and has been bouncing back and forth. Has run some good ones, has run some bad ones. Obviously, you're hoping that she can take a little bit of a step up here.
Yeah, she's probably going to have to. I think she's probably a little bit slow compared to some of the other favorites like the 7 and the 8. But as well as I do, I think this is a big jockey upgrade from Shiza to Saez. And I think with the inside post, Saez is probably going to have her a little bit more involved. Hopefully, he's kind of sitting right off the heels of the 5, because I do think the 5's probably the fastest in the race. You might get a kind of second outside stalking trip from the 7. Maybe the 8 will be involved too. Hoping Saez is able to kind of sit that pocket. And when Shirer took over last time, 3 back from Bill Morey, that was way back in July, and she won, I thought, pretty nicely. But then I thought you could kind of make excuses for the last 2. She was kind of well off the pace, going a mile. Not sure she wants to go that far. And then last time, part of a pace that was anyone on top of that pace was nowhere to be found, and she was bet that day. So hoping with the jockey upgrade, Shirer is very capable. You see, he's got more than half of his runners so far have been first or second in the exact at Churchill so far. So hoping Saez is kind of able to get her into a pretty good spot down on the inside, and I think she's worth a look at 8-1.
I think the fact that Saez hops aboard this one, they're going to have a little bit more aggressiveness with her, at least in theory. And you look early in her career where she was winning very well at Belterra and Thistledown. She was really up close to the pace, and the last couple of times she's kind of backed off that. Obviously, that gave way to a winning effort 2 back at Ellis Park. You can kind of give a little bit of credence to the mile trip at Churchill. It's probably not what this horse wants to do. Matt Shire tried something with her. Didn't work out. Last time out, you said that nobody, and I showed it on the screen, nobody held up anywhere close to the pace. And the fact that Color Me Cairo really only finished 4.5 off of it, the best of all the horses in that type of speed duel. I think Color Me Cairo definitely is worth the look at 8-1. So I do like that pick. I went with the number 4, Miss L. I just think this horse is going to a really, really nice trip in here. See 2 back in the starter allowance, even 3 back. She sat that type of pocket trip. Maybe just not good enough that day, but was bet down to 6 and 5-1 respectively. And then you go down to Keeneland, but you take the jump up to the $80,000 claim. Not really too worried that they're going to lose her in that race. Put her into a non-winners of 2 lifetimes, see how she does, and she runs an absolute hole in the wind. She ran super well that day, and looking to build off of that one in here. She's easily a win threat in this race. If she can get a very similar trip to that last race, which in theory, I think she really can, just in behind all the speed. Noah, you and I both have the number 7, Miss Ellery in 3rd. And Lauren Robson's a smaller barn, but she's done a really nice job after taking over the training of this horse. Wants to be near the front. However, last time the horse just sprinted clear of her, but she was able to wear it down, just gave it up at the end. However, I thought she ran really well in basically what's a winning race. Just someone caught her just at the end.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at her numbers, she's definitely the horse to beat. There's no doubt about that. The problem is it looks like she's kind of come down with the second-itis. You can see she's run second in her last 5 races. Her one at Keeneland, she got a pretty easy lead that day and got beat by 5. So I was a little discouraged by that going into the race last time at Churchill. And I will say I thought she did run pretty well last time at Churchill. But it kind of seemed like, she hit the lead and the horse kind of got her right in the late stages of that race at Churchill last time. It just it gave me the vibe like if she wasn't going to get it done last time,
right?
I don't know if she's really ever going to get it done. Now you can see she was second early on in that race, and the horses that were first and third were way out of it. So it's just kind of one where you could go on either side of the fence. And I feel like it's a similar vibe with some of these other races where you've got favorites in here that you can make strong cases for, but also poke some big holes. So I just thought it was really interesting from a sequential standpoint, and people are going to have to budget pretty enticingly here.
Yeah, and the thing that I liked that you said was it's almost you have to pick one side or the other with her, right? In that last race, I thought she ran really, really well, and obviously you're getting the cutback in here, which I know one man in the chat is at least happy to always see some cutbacks. But she's never been really at this type of distance. I mean, you have to go all the way back to last year to find her last 7 furlong effort. And, if you continue to go down the page, really, she's never been this type of distance since all the way back in mid-July, and that was turf sprinting. So, take it with a grain of salt. Obviously, you're going to have to trust in Lauren Robson that she thinks this horse is better short than longer, basically off that last race where she kind of gave out late. You would imagine that. Tyler back aboard. Obviously, he has a little bit of confidence, but again, you're talking about that second-itis and trusting what's the most likely favorite come post time with that type of trip. Too many question marks for me, but definitely could get it done in a pretty wide open race to kick off the Late Pick 5. In race number 8, I'm going 8-4-7, and Noah goes 8-1-7. See, Ralph Conti. That's not the man I was talking about, but definitely can see it. I like the turn back. I was talking about the boss man, of course, loves his dirt turnbacks. But Ralph Conti, absolutely, the turn back could help. The 7, James, my friend, late to the party, but still here nonetheless. James, thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. Jim Pilar, my friend. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Hope all as well over there in Buffalo with your family. No, let's move on to the next race on the card. It's race number 9. It's a $30,000 claiming event. Right before we get to the good stuff, of course, we go into the climbing ranks. A field of 11 going 7 furlongs on the dirt. And I put up the Equibase right now. You can see on the screen the number 10, your morning line favorite, Gallo de Fuego for Cheminade and Dale Romans, 3-1 on the morning line. Second choice, number 9, Hard to Say, Corey Lannery and Robert Medina, 7-2 on the morning line. Your third choice, the number 3, Sand Street, Tyler Gaffleone, Steve Asmussen, 9-2. And Noah, speak of the three, back-to-back third choices, back-to-back very based picks, my friend. Sand Street, the number 3, Gaffleone hops aboard this one. It just seems like this is kind of, it's not really like a default pick necessarily, but she's run the least, claimed for 20,000 by Asmussen, now runs her back. And that with one of his, which one of his kids was that? It was Keith that was aboard last time out. Now you're picking up Gaffleone in a race like this. It almost seems like all systems are go for this one.
Yeah, I'm a little worried that the public's going to kind of default to this pick. Obviously,
correct.
You've got him on top too. It just seems like with the upside, he's probably the direction to go, right? And Steve claimed him for 20, ran him back in a reasonable spot about a month later, and I thought his win last time was fine. I mean, this is $30,000 claimer, so it's not really like he has to really step up his game. And if you look back at some of the horses that were coming out of that race, I mean, all the horses, you've got 4 of them, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 7th place finishers, all came back and improved their buyers, and not only improved, but kind of improved substantially. So it seems like the field that he beat in that maiden 30 last time was pretty okay. So like I said, there's really no world beaters that he's really got to step up and nab this time. And speaking of speed, and there's really not a ton in the race. If you click on the Timeform US Pace projector, I mean, you got the 3 out on the lonely lead. And if you're a backer of the 3 like Kyle and I think you'd be pretty happy with that.
I would be more than happy if this horse goes out to the lead. I'm obviously hoping that he doesn't look back. The 2 Good Money does have a little bit of speed. I'm just not sure he's as fast as Sand Street. And there's a couple of horses at the outside that have a little bit. McElroy, which obviously they were hoping to be a little bit better of a horse, naming him after the choke artist himself, obviously turned it around a little bit recently. A little bit other speed, but it seems like Sand Street's the fastest of the bunch. And if he can continue that type of form, I really do like this horse. Gaffleone aboard. I love the type of angle where, obviously Steve doesn't run his kids on complete donkeys, but when he has a nicer horse, and I know this is a $30,000 claimer, so this might not completely apply to this race, but you can tell when Steve has a nicer horse because you'll get Irad aboard, you'll get Saez, you'll get Gaffleone, Jose Ortiz, you'll get those types of riders that gravitate towards Steve's a little bit better horses. The fact that Gaffleone hops aboard could just mean that his kids aren't in town for the weekend, but of course still do like the jockey change to Gaffleone. Moving to the number 4, Noah, you have in second in Air Cav, who I kind of mentioned before. Arlington and Illinois racing legend Ismael Bahena, Walter Rodriguez hops aboard this one. Has had some really nice numbers and, ran in a starter optional last time out. Never really was 169-1 that time. Of course, coming back into here, the numbers easily fit. It's just a matter of trip for this type of horse that, again, 1 for 15 is not everything you want to see. However, has been in the money at least a third of the time.
Well, last time was a claiming crown, which is why he was 171 that day. Obviously, he was a little out of his element, and you take those races kind of, at face value with a little grain of salt. But you can see, I mean, Nation ran off the screen, posted a 96 buyer that day. So obviously there were much better horses in that field than he wouldn't have been 170-1 that day. But, he got claimed from Michael Tomlinson. And when he was with Michael Tomlinson in these non-winners of 2 lifetime races, I mean, he took some serious money. I mean, look at some of those. He put a string of 5 or 6 races together where he was bet pretty heavily in those races and ran just fine, I thought. Then they kind of switched over to your boy Ismael Bahena and was a little disrespected on the board. He was 24-1 at Keeneland. I thought he ran okay considering he didn't break at all that time and was closing pretty good in that race. And then just a little over his head last time. So feels like if he runs one of his better races, I think he's a little bit interesting. And Walter Rodriguez was familiar with him 2 back at Keeneland. So a familiar pilot, I think, is a green flag for him.
Yeah, definitely. And Patricia Hernandez, thanks so much for joining the show. Greatly appreciate it. Bear down is correct, of course. The problem with the 3 is Asmussen is not good maiden claiming to winners. So that's definitely a point to bring into mind. And he'll definitely be overbet. I do agree with you that even Noah pointed out that said this might just be where the public kind of defaults Gaffleone and Asmussen in a race like this. And again, he might be loose, which you always question how good these horses are, especially coming out of the maiden claiming ranks. So your point is well taken, but new face in the chat, of course, wanted to say hello and thanks so much for joining. Number 2, Good Money is where I landed in second. And this is another one of those. So it's kind of been all or nothing But I mean, this horse was in the Tampa Bay Derby, for Christ's sake, back in 2024. Came back after that in 2025 in an optional claimer at Tampa Bay. Ran well and just really hasn't found that form since. But you get the first time ultimate equipment change with the number 2 Good Money. Ben Colebrook has ran nicely he's 3 for 6 in the money here at Churchill, of course, being a smaller barn. You'd love to see some wins. However, his horses are still running fine. He usually puts his horses in places that they can win, and this will be the furthest drop that this horse has ever had. So definitely some things to like more on other horses. However, I still think this off the little bit of a drop can get at least in the money, especially with the ultimate equipment change. Noah, you and I are both going with number 10, the morning line favorite, Gallo de Fuego, in third. Cheminade Romans has been off since Saratoga, but man, he won very, very well in Saratoga. Back to Churchill, a track that he really hasn't liked too much, but has been, pretty close every single time. And this will be another one of those angles where this will be the lowest claiming price he's ever been.
And this is kind of the vibe I felt with the 7 in the first leg, where even with the 9, the 9's going to be probably last going into the far turn, which, do you really want to take a short price on a horse that's going to be last in the race? And now I know he's been facing a little bit better. And I think you could kind of make the same case with the 10 too, who we haven't seen since July. Dale Romans obviously campaigns his horses very, very well, and they threw him in some pretty decent races over the end of the spring and the beginning of the summer last year, and was able to finally get his win last time. And you can poke your holes in the 9, and some of the holes that I can poke in the 10. I mean, you can see the work tab. He hadn't worked since July 5th, ran that race on July 11th. Obviously something wasn't quite right because they had the voided claim for 50,000. And then he's only had three works since October 25th, November 1st. And then he didn't have one until November 16th, which is a little concerning. But obviously, going with the 7 in the last race, and even with the 9 in this race, you can make cases that they're the best version of them, and the numbers that they've proven it to put up are very competitive in a race like this.
No, absolutely. And this horse has put numbers up on both dirt and turf. This is just another one. This is kind of why I not really defaulted, but went with the 3, Noah. It's just there's so many holes that you can poke and a lot of others. I just kind of like the upside more on the 3. However, we'll get over bet. That's the one thing I had noticed on the 10 too, Noah, was that gap in works. Not only from July 5th to October 25th, but the gap from November 1st to November 16th. Like, I just don't understand why, and Dale Romans is usually one to be pretty on schedule with his horses. And the fact that this horse had a 2.5 week gap in works, I feel like is definitely something to say, especially when this horse is the morning line favorite. In race number 9, I'm going 3, 2, 10. Noah's going 3, 4, 10. My man that I mentioned at the end of the show last time, Fat Wallet, my friend, play the under 38.5 in the Iowa-Nebraska game Friday to fatten your bankroll, or fatten your wallet, if you will, to ride on Saturday with the HHH crew with those power picks. My man Fat Wallet is speaking facts. Good luck with that play. I actually do like that play. Iowa-Nebraska. Obviously, Iowa's fantastic defense. Nebraska's been an inconsistent offense with Patrick Apartments behind the helm. So if that wins, can easily get into some fun stuff with the power picks on Saturday. Noah, let's get into race number 10, and this starts the really fun stuff on the card at Churchill on Saturday. It's the Mrs. Revere Stakes, a mile and the 16th on the turf for 3-year-old fillies, headed by the very, very impressive winner last time of the QE2. It is the number 1 in this race again, Lush Lips. Gaff Leone, Brenda Walsh, 7-5 on the morning line. I think you might not even get that in this race. The second choice is the number 4, Classic Q, Jose Ortiz Marcassi at 3-1. Third choice, the number 8, the other Brendan Walsh, Something to Bother. Axel Concepcion picks up that mount, 8-1 on the morning line. And Noah, my friend, the chat, how do you think, Noah, how many people do you think picked Lush Lips? Did I pick Lush Lips? Did Noah pick Lush Lips? Or did none of us pick Lush Lips? What do you think, Chad? I'll give
only 0, 1, or 2, so it can't be that
0, 1, or 2. So you have a 33.3333 repeating, of course. That's a good reference, by the way. Percent chance.
You know what 100 minus 33 is?
I hate you. I hate you. So how many So Howard says 0. How many people in the chat think that? How many people took Lush Lips? Jim says 1. I'll give the chat a couple more seconds here if you want to get your guesses in, because you'll probably be surprised on who takes what. It's going to be. Katie says 6-7. I hate it here. I hate it here. It is 0. We both have Lush Lips in second. Obviously, she can win. Noah's going with the second choice to number 4. Classic Q. I'm going with the number 7 Bracelet, Cox and Irad at 10-1. As you guys can see, I forgot to bring up, I thought the Equibase was up. My apologies. But yeah, Noah's going with number 4 Classic Q, Jose Ortiz, Mark Cassie. I'm going to number 7 Bracelet, Irad Ortiz, Brad Cox. Noah, I think you and I are both going to say the same thing on Lush Lips, which is why I kind of want to start with you. But we'll start with Classic Q. She's had some really, really big ups and some really inconsistencies. She's been great on the lead, and then she's been basically like the last 2 times, the speed's just been completely gone. So it's really interesting to see how they're going to approach this race. Jose Ortiz is back aboard though, so that obviously instills confidence in your trip with Classic Q.
I have to imagine that Jose is going to be sending in this race just because there's really not a ton of speed outside of this filly. I kind of made an obligation to bet her again after the race that she ran in the Valley View because, first of all, she didn't really break and wasn't able to kind of get that forward position that she has kind of proven to prefer. But she was just tossing her head around the far turn, had to swing really wide for the stretch. Now, the case that you can make against her is, how good really was that Valley View? But I thought she endured enough trouble, and she's got races to go back to, especially on the front end with a race that doesn't seem like there's a lot of speed. I thought it was enough to go back to her. And like you said, I think Lush Lips is probably going to take the majority of the money, and there's a chance that she gets a really good trip like she did last time in the QE2. But I just think if you're Jose, you just go. You try to take these other horses off the bridle. You use what you've got and your weapon, and that's the speed. And maybe that takes you there because she has had a little struggles over the summer where she's gotten a little leg weary. So I'm hoping she just kind of runs them off their feet. If Lush Lips is, maybe the better animal, maybe she runs her down, but you're also getting paid to find out, right? So, the one's probably going to be even money. Classic Q's probably 2-1, 5-2, maybe. I'm happy with taking that price on Classic Q.
And I'll tell you what, I do completely agree with the assessment that you had of last race. I can't believe that horse came from the clouds, being what she's done in the past. She's basically been only go, her entire career at that type of level. And the fact that she came flying late, that definitely instills a little bit of confidence in you, even though that turf course at Keeneland was playing a lot towards closers. But I agree with you. Just take the other chat approach in races like this and just absolutely send like hell and have them come catch you. So Classic Q, I don't have anywhere, but I completely understand why Noah does have her in there. I went with the number 7 Bracelet, guys. And this is one that I know it's Brad. I know it's Irad. You're going to get somewhere around 6-1. You're definitely not getting that 10-1 just based on the connections. But this is one that was racing down at Turfway Park and ran in the Bourbonette Oaks, lost to Bless the Broken, who's obviously come back to flatter that form. Then she was completely off until Keeneland. Came back and got a really nice trip that day, although was hounded both from the inside and the outside the whole time and went away basically just complete non-threatened. Was the horse that came up on the outside late, was completely gone. Princess Attitude was that horse. She was 10-1 that day based on the layoff. Now coming back into this race, I really, really do like Bracelet in this one. If Classic Q goes, I would love if Irad just sits right off of her and have Lush Lips come get me down the stretch. And if I'm getting, 4-5 even money on Lush Lips versus 6-1 on Bracelet with Irad telling to come catch me, and second off the layoff as well for Brad Cox, who's winning 26%. Irad's winning 25%. Give me that every single bit of the day. And I could be completely wrong, Noah, of course. Lush Lips can easily win, right? I mean, that's not saying anything insane that to say if Lush Lips just sits a pocket trip and wins by 3, we're not exactly going to be, we're not exactly going to be surprised by any means. But I still feel like it's worth a shot to bet against her here, because when she's going to be such a low price. And, we're talking about last time out. This is something I mentioned to you before the show was, 94 is so much better than all these other horses have ran. However, Laurelin and Fionn came back to run against each other at Aqueduct in a race we covered on this show. They both came back to run an 86. So, you could argue that, the buyer aggression, maybe Lush Lips won't take that. But both of those horses, who are arguably Lush Lips' biggest competition last time in that race, came back to run an 86, which is basically every other race that Lush Lips has ran on the screen.
No, I completely agree. And, you could go on the flip side and say, those two stretched out to a mile and 3/8, and maybe it's a little tougher to get bigger buyers or bigger buyer jumps with some of those races where they're a little slower up front. But to your point, I think there are reasons to bet against Lush Lips, and even reasons to maybe take a chance against either one, because obviously the horse that you like's got some upside. Obviously, she's going to have to be pretty good to kind of make that first jump on Classic Q and then hold off the likes of Lush Lips and maybe some others. But she's 10-1, so obviously you're going to get paid to find out. Now, Lush Lips, the version that we saw at Del Mar, I'm not exactly sure she wins this race. She was pretty good in the QE2, but it was also very merry-go-roundish. Obviously, we talked about Laurelin and Fionn, and Opulent and Restraint is not really a horse that loves to hang around, and she held on pretty good for third, I thought. So I don't know. I think how you look at this race kind of depends on how you look at the QE2 last time, whether you believe that was really a 94 buyer and a 118 time form, because I think she's probably the best horse in the race, and the best version of her probably wins this race. Yeah. But I don't really see things working out for her in terms of pace scenario.
I could do agree with you. Obviously, we're both going against her. You have the number 9 in the stars in third, and then I'll talk about the 10 to finish off, and then we'll move on to the next race. I do see the boss man talking about the 10 and Ralph Conti in the chat. Number 9 is in the stars, 15-1 on the morning line. Rusty Arnold, Luis Saez. After a nice allowance win last time at Keeneland, probably the next step up for her is to take a shot at Stakes Company.
Yeah, it's just a natural progression. Now, she's probably not as good as the 1 and the 4. But I thought her win at Kentucky Downs was very, very decisive. Obviously, she beat that field by 7. And you see second and third place finishers came back and won their subsequent races. And then I thought the race at Keeneland was good. That was on opening day, I believe, and got a pretty good trip that day. But she was kind of hung out wide, at least 4 or 5 wide, trying to make a bit of a premature move into the stretch, and idled for a little bit, but then kind of refocused and got things going. So it just seems like she's getting good at the right time. And Size is never going to have her too far back. She's probably going to be close to where the 7's sitting. So just another one that maybe could get that first jump. And if she's good enough and pops up once again, you're going to get a good price on her as well.
Yeah, I definitely could see her getting into the money again. Basically just progression, right? She won the absurd price maiden special weight at Kentucky Downs, and last time out won an N1X. Again, you mentioned she had a little bit, but still got the job done. This is the next step up for her. Maybe a little bit too much considering who's in the race, but in the money could definitely be a reason for her. And the number 10 Pretty Pictures I have in third, and Howard's saying, watch the replay of the 10 last time. Dylan was way too passive. She has a wicked close. If the pace heats up, look for her in the stretch. And I do agree with you, Ralph Conti. You're not getting 10-1 on a horse that's anywhere associated with both Flavian Pratt and Chad Brown. I apologize. DRF's having this weird issue where you cannot make it full screen for some reason. So I apologize to everyone out there, but you're looking at the number 6 Pretty Picture, who's right here in the maroon, as you can see down on the inside. Very passive. They didn't go very fast up front. 49-1, 114-2 for the fractions. And you can see at the top of the stretch, she's just to the inside, going to have to change lanes late. But as Howard mentioned, this horse really has a nice closing kick. My problem is, and actually you brought it up, I just don't know if there's enough pace in here, Noah, for her to be able to get the job done. Like this exact type, I don't know if she'll be that far back, but that exact type of like finish for her with a nice gallop out is exactly what I could see her running in this race. Then when she gets in a bigger a race with more pace down the line, I feel like that could be exactly what she needs to get the job done.
Oh, absolutely. I think the more of the concern for her is the pace, like you said, rather than ability, because obviously it seems like she's pretty good. And the horse that finished second in front of her last time, Fast Market, came back and just won the Pebbles last weekend. It's actually entered in this race, which I'd be very surprised if Terra Nova ended up wheeling her back in 5 days, 6 days, trying to get her off the van and from New York to Churchill. So she's probably not going to run. But I would have to imagine that Pratt's going to try to have her as close as possible if she wants any chance to win this race.
And maybe she can sit closer and be just as good. Obviously, she did that on the dirt at Monmouth. You don't know how that transfers over. Love Camacho's work, and he did a fantastic job with her in the maiden race at Monmouth Park. It's just a matter of, again, can it translate to a race where there's not that much pace on? But again, Pratt at higher digit odds, just like my IRAD pick at higher digit odds. It's going to be a jockey's race, as these turf races always are. And whoever gets the best trip is most likely going to win this race. If it's not, that's in Tom Espinoza, my friend. I sensing a reverse tri-key on the number 10 horse. And I know one man that could definitely look into that type of bet. In race number 10, the Mrs. Revere Stakes, I'm going 7-1-10. Noah's going 4-1-9. Noah, to the feature on the entire card, it is the Grade 2 Clark Stakes presented by Norton Healthcare. $600,000 on the line, 1 1/8 for older boys. As I put it up on the screen right now, it draws a field of 9, and talk about a pretty stout older dirt horse field of 9. The morning line favorite is the number 3 Hit Show, coming off a nice win last time. IRAD back in the saddle for Brad Cox, 3-1 on the morning line. Second choice, the number 4 Gosker, the 3-year-old. Luis Saez, Brendan Walsh at 4-1. And the third choice, the number 9 Magnitude, Jose Ortiz. Steve Asmussen does the training and bringing up our picks on the screen right now. And Noah, anyone that knows me will find this pick very fascinating. I am going with Hit Show. You are going with the horse that I cannot stomach to put on top again. I really, really wanted to in this race, but I just can't stomach. This horse has burned so much of my own money, but can he win this race, Noah? If First Mission is on his best day, he can absolutely win this race.
Oh, 100%. And I partially think that has to do with the guy that's going to be riding him on Friday, which I think obviously suits him a lot better. You see, he was on for his Oaklawn win, which you could make a case that was the best win of his career, and one of the best races of his career, like I said. And then, boy, he's been a little polarizing just because he was in the Foster. I did like him a little bit that day. I didn't really think that they would try to go to the lead, but seeing the horses that he finished third to, Mayan Frame and Sierra Leone, I mean, those are some pretty good. Those are some pretty good horses that we saw in the Breeders' Cup Classic not too long ago. Then it was a bit of a puzzling ride. I know us, not even just us on the screen, but a lot of people were a little puzzled by the ride that Giroux gave 2 back in that stake at Monmouth. And then last time, it's not often that I pick horses that I deemed terrible last time, because he was every bit of bad last time. I don't know what it was. But the weird thing with Brad Cox is he sent a couple horses, maybe not of his quality, but he sent some pretty good, classic and distaff horses over within the last year or two, and they just haven't really panned out. We saw Hit Show. He ran in the Big Cap, and he was a little disappointing that day. I know Locke kind of ran off the screen, but he didn't even finish second in there, and there was nobody to beat that day. So he's had a couple horses that you go back a couple years, and they've kind of done the same thing where they've been a little disappointing when they come out west, but it just seems like they've hit the refresh button. Obviously, he likes deer at Churchill Downs, and he's going to get pace to run at, which I think if you go back and look through his races, he's probably better with the target. So I'm hoping that's what Pratt does. Inside position is going to help. I'm hoping we get 5-1. I don't exactly think that's the case. I'm thinking probably more towards 3-1, because I feel like this is a horse that definitely takes some money.
Oh, I mean, that's for sure. Maybe I will end up picking this horse on top by the end I can't stomach it. Every single time, I feel like I've liked this horse more times than not when this horse has ran. And I think I've been right once in that Oaklawn handicap, and he was 7-5. I mean, it's just he's so well touted. He works so well every single time. And realistic, his only 2 wins in the last 2 years have come at Oaklawn Park. I mean, no, sorry, excuse me. He won the Ali Sheba on Derby Day that we were there for, Noah, in 2024. And he did that so well. And you and I were talking after. It was like, this horse is going to be the next superstar. He just hasn't panned out to being that, unfortunately. And obviously, the only win he's had since that Derby Day is at Oaklawn Park in the Oaklawn handicap, where realistically, he kind of freaked off the screen. And I want to pick this. I might end up picking this horse on top. He's so inconsistent in my eyes to have at what he's going to be 3-1. And maybe Pratt is the difference. Obviously, you can see the one race that Pratt's been on him in his whole career. He was very well rated and ended up winning at the 1 1/8 distance. But again, if I'm getting the right price, I might have to take a bet on First Mission. I went with Hit Show on top. And the reason why this horse is fascinating for me to have on top is because I hate this horse with a passion. Whenever I bet him, I'm unbelievably wrong. Whenever I don't bet him, he stuffs me in a locker, throws me off the Black Pearl and into Davy Jones. Last time out in the Fayette, didn't like him at all. I completely disliked him in every sense of the word. And he wins for fun, really. He never looked like a loser at all in that race. In the Lucas Classic, I bet him that day. Him and Banishing together, I kind of mix and match them, but mostly had on Banishing, but I did bet Hit Show. Was god awful. He was terrible. Then in the Governor, I didn't bet that Mountaineer Day, of course, but he wins that day over arguably really not good horses at all. Maybe Heroic Move, you could argue, but Heroic Move's nothing special by any means. And as I go back to him, I mean, it's just in the Dubai World Cup, I definitely did not have him that day in the Dubai World Cup. I can tell you that. But like you said, the big cap Noah was awful, although I did obviously like Locke that day. The Louisiana, I didn't have him that day, and the Clark, I had him that day. It's just one of those so polarizing horses for me. I just really see him getting a good trip in here, Noah. And maybe First Mission's the same exact way. Going to sit basically right off the speed in the first type of flight. He's maybe going to sit 5th or 6th. The long stretch at Churchill can be very conducive for him. And even though it has and hasn't in the past, like I said, I might end up changing that. And if you don't follow me on X, I'm actually posting 3 different tracks this Saturday for my picks. So if you don't follow me on X and that interests you at all, follow me on X at AP Roscoe K. Also give Noah a follow at Noah MEAG. But just one of those super polarizing horses for me. The fact that I have this horse on top really surprises me. Gosker, Noah, the horse you have in second, I have in third. This is a horse that's he's done really nothing wrong, arguably, besides his Pennsylvania Derby. Parks is such a weird surface. It's almost like Kentucky Downs for me. Either you horses like it, they don't, throw them out. Every race but that, he's ran in the high 90s, low hundreds, easily good enough to at least finish in the money in this field.
Yeah, I think so. And I can't really disagree with anything that you said on Hit Show. When I go back and look at that Fayette, I just really wasn't super enamored with it. If I want anybody, it's probably this horse right here in Gosker.
Yeah.
Who was just on the worst part of the racetrack it could possibly be going into that first turn. I mean, he was all the way out in the parking lot. He's all the way out in the stables that are tucked behind that first turn over there at Keeneland. So he really had no chance of winning that race after that. And I thought he stuck around with a pace that really didn't hold together. Now, on the flip side, I thought Hit Show got a pretty good ride and trip from IRAD that day. And talk about good trips. I mean, Rattle and Roll was about the most non-threatening second that you could ever see in a race like that. But it's one of those races where if you can make good cases for any of the shorter prices of the logicals in here, I really wouldn't talk you off. Maybe Rattle and Roll would be the one I would be a little advised to bet against. But even magnitude. I know Howard throws a little love in there. I think he's got a good shot to win. The problem with him is I think Gosker's probably going to make magnitude have to work quite a bit to try to get the lead and clear from that outside post. And maybe he's just a little step below the other two. But he's got every chance of winning this race too. I mean, there's very many different ways you can go in this race.
I mean, he's ran a ton of good races, but Willie D's is not slow by any means. This one's basically all go or nothing in here. Houday is not slow, although not as probably fast as the other two. Chunk of Gold in his last 3 races has been right up the lead. And you'd think that after that last win at Keeneland and a win in the West Virginia Derby on the lead, do you think this horse isn't going for the lead? There just seems to me a lot of pace in here. Gosker is going to get a really nice trip behind the speed. I agree, Siggy, with everything you said. Hit Show obviously got a very nice trip last time, and that might be end up. I hate it. I'm gonna have First Mission on top. I'm telling you, by the end of the week, I'm gonna be you talking about him, Howard talking. I'm gonna talk myself into picking this horse on top again, which means he's gonna finish a great non-threatening third, as all my Keeneland horses do. It seems like this year, even Cook Creek, right? I mean, Cook Creek has run some really nice races on the lead. Even last year in the Lucas Classic, he almost beat Hit Show that day at 1 1/8. And last time at Delaware, that number seems to have popped back up. So Maker gets Arietta aboard, who should be aggressive. Just seems to be a lot of pace in front of him, which both First Mission, Hit Show, Rattle and Roll, Gosker should all get really nice trips in here. But again, there's so many different ways you can go in a race like this, which makes the Clark so fascinating this year. In race 11, I'm going 3-2-4. Noah's going 2-4-3. Let's move on to the last race. Noah, race 12 is a maiden special weight, going 6 furlongs on the dirt, 120,000 on the line. Again, thank you guys all for watching, and thank you to TwinSpires for sponsoring this podcast. Of course, every single Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, we have the leaderboard show, guys. It's a fantastic handicapping and contest show. Fantastic contest show and live that specializes in live money contests over on TwinSpires.com. Contest play strategy. They preview the contest coming up, which of course on Friday is for this race card. It's the Clark Betting Challenge. It's a big contest day, which actually we will have a Weekend Warriors show for the Clark coming up that day as well. Again, subscribe here to the HHH Racing Podcast to never miss one of those podcasts, whether it's Bettin and Boozin, Pacific Horseplayers, Picks and Ponies, the leaderboard, Weekend Warriors. We have a ton of content for you guys coming out 52 weeks out of the year. Noah, let's move on to race number 12. As I mentioned, it's a maiden special weight, field of 10. Morning line favorite is number 8, Mizzou. Tyler Gaffleone, George Weaver. It's number 4, C Vista. I forgot. Irad Ortiz, Brad Cox, 5-2. Your second choice is Mizzou. Tyler Gaffleone, George Weaver, 3-1. Third choice, number 2, Pitkin, Brian Hernandez, and Ian Wilkes. And Noah, you and I are just team third choice today. We are going with the number 2, Pitkin, in this race, whom honestly I could see any one of those 3 vying for favoritism. If the number 2, Pitkin, ends up being the favorite, I wouldn't exactly be surprised.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. I feel like people are probably going to I think the 4 is probably going to take some money. I think people are going to gravitate in that direction just because he showed some pretty good numbers as a late 2-year-old, and it's Godolphin, Irad, Cox. There's a lot of reasons to bet the 4, but I'm with you. I like to see quite a bit in here. Back-to-back second place finishes to start his career. The second one being to Gosker, who came back and won, and we were just talking about him in the last race. And they stretch him out to 2 turns at Keeneland. Didn't really work all that well. He ran into a pretty good field that day. I think there were 3 or 4 next out winners, but has been on the bench since. I know Wilkes he's got a goose egg so far at the meet, but he's 18% when he goes plus 180 days in maiden races on dirt. So I thought that was a pretty good stat to back, even though Wilkes has been skunked so far at the meet. Brian Hernandez rode him last time all the way back in April, so he's familiar with him, and he's one where I'm a little more not so worrisome that he's been off for so long, just because he's been working for so long. So it seems like they've appointed to get him back to the races. This is a great spot because I think the 6 and the 8 could really set things up for him. I think he gets a good trip in here.
I couldn't agree with you more. Everything that you said, I really do like, including the Ian Wilkes goose egg angle. But he's just running against some. Obviously, look at the horse he ran against earlier in his career. Jimmy's Dailies has come back to be a nice horse. Disruptor came back to win, to run in the Florida Derby. After that, obviously hasn't been seen since. But Jimmy's Daily has been, a listed stake placed earner both 2 times this year. Then after that, you have Gosker that he ran against. Obviously, we know what Gosker has become over the last couple. Capitol Hill has been a nice horse for Belmont. AP Kid came back to win after that. So just a lot of really, really nice kept company in Pitkin's early career as a 3-year-old. Now a lot of time off. Comes back working steadily the entire way through of October and November. Ian Wilkes seems to just have this spot in mind, which is something I really, really like to see, especially with maidens with trainer intent. So Pitkin is definitely going to be my top pick in here. Noah, you have the number 6 Vital Mind in second. I don't have anywhere, but again, I could have him in second. I could have him in third, anywhere in between the 2, 4, 6, and 8. Who do we appreciate? Noah, what'd you like most about the number 6 Vital Mind?
No, that's a pretty good way to put it. I think if you're looking to narrow it down to 4 horses, I think you can pretty much lock it up with the little chant that you do after you play T-ball. So, yeah, Vital Mind. Thought it was interesting that Jose picked this horse over the 8. And I think if it comes out to it, the 6 is probably a little bit faster than the 8. Now, I know we haven't seen the 6 for a while, but it seems like, I mean, the main reason why I don't have the 8 in the mix, and he's probably the 4th horse if we included 4th and did a superfecta for the picks. But it seems like if the 2, 4, and 6 come back and run some of the numbers that they had shown previously, because obviously those 3 are the ones that are going to be off the layoff and coming back, and we haven't seen them for a while. It seems like if one of those, runs back to what they've shown and either steps up their game, I don't know if what I've seen from the 8. Now I know the race at Keeneland was okay, but last time, boy, he was disappointing. So it just seems like if one of those comes back and runs to what they had run before, I think the 8's kind of running for second at that point.
Right, and that's exactly what I was going to say was the 8's kind of a 1-number horse, but you go to time form as well. He by far has the best number on time form as well, with the 113 earned at that Keeneland race. But last time he's just bad. I mean, really. And if you take that race out, he's running the same exact numbers as the 6, the same exact numbers as the 2, and the 4 is just a little bit step below. But that horse is also coming off of, a 11-month layoff now at this point. So could just be more matured and better than he was previously. Sea Vista can easily win. And maybe I don't think there's a whole lot of speed in here either. Obviously, we'll see what the first-time starters do in here. But Sea Vista was one of those that came from the clouds on the dirt. The first couple ran at Turfway, was 2-5 that day, and really didn't run. That was actually the day at Turfway where it felt like I had everything that day. Maitre D was one of my top picks that day. Ended up working very, very well, obviously, for me. However, Godolphin, Brad Cox, Irad, this horse is going to take a ton of money. But the layoff is what I think could scare a little bit of people, which could introduce some other favoritism. Although you are probably right, Noah. Just connections alone, I think Sea Vista will take the most money come post time. And you're going to bet that she's going to be, he's going to be ready off the layoff and coming from the clouds in a race like this at 6 furlongs, which at Churchill hasn't been the most conducive to horses coming from off the pace. But it's most likely those 4. If anyone else, I'd be probably a little bit surprised, to be completely honest, if anyone else won. But as Paul Halloran says with the 1, bet against Belmont at your own peril. In race number 12 to end off the Late Pick 5, I'm going 2, 4, 8. Noah's going 2, 6, 4, and stay on for after best bets for Howard coming on to talk about an important announcement regarding Bettin and Boozin. So Noah, let's get through these best bets quick so that we can get the boss man on the screen. Noah, super simple. 1 best bet for you, a double first mission into Pitkin starting in race 11.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to bet the double. I think the one I'm a little more interested in is betting Pitkin in the last race. And especially if you're playing the contest on TwinSpires, I think you're going to have to make a move in that race if you're wanting to get a KDBC or NHC seat. So I'd key in there, but obviously first mission, I think, has got a big shot, and he's bound to take some money. I have to guarantee it, especially if Kyle hops on, because Kyle's got the rule of thumb where if Kyle picks a horse on top, and they're going to go off favorite. So
that's right.
Maybe that might be a good thing. He goes off favorite, you take some money, he's live in there, and then you finish it off with the 2-2 double. So that's the direction I'm going.
Yeah, and like I said, dude, it could easily be that I have my best bets all centered around hit show. It could end up changing again. Follow me on Twitter if that is the case. My best bets are race number 10 on win on the number 7 bracelet. I think that one's going to be a very nice price, and I'm going to kick off a double with that as well. Just completely trying to beat Lush Lips, and if the Chad Brown number 10 horse does sit closer than she has in the past couple, definitely want to use her just in case that horse does end up being a freak. So 7-10 with hit show, singling hit show. Just think he's going to get a really nice setup again. But again, always subject to change. So follow us over on Twitter as I'll post my picks every single weekend. Without further ado, everybody, thank you guys all so much for watching. But of course, an announcement from the owner and founder of the HHH Racing Podcast, host of Picks and Ponies, normally Thursday, now Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern this week, Howard Kravitz. Howard, how are you doing, my friend?
Noah's got rainbows, and is that a ghost blanket in the background I see there?
Yeah, I thought you were going to make a comment about my haircut. I didn't know it was going to be those two first.
Well, that was my second comment, but looking good, my friend, looking good.
Thank you.
Not a sports clip this time.
No, we got it done the right way.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'll be very brief. Great job, of course, Kyle and Noah. The reason I wanted to come on is twofold. Threefold. First, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. We'll be on tomorrow night, so on a Wednesday. So check us out for 2 shows. But the main reason I want to come on tonight is to say a little bit of a goodbye, but not really. Noah, this is show 157 of Bettin and Boozin. I did a little research. How many shows of 157? How many think you've been on?
Oh boy, I was a guest in May of 23, I believe, and started full time at about September, October of 23. So probably, I'm gonna say, let's go 75.
I actually have no idea, but that's homework for you to look at. Anyway, I've made a decision, ladies and so Noah's on a lot of different shows, and we love Noah. We value everything that he does. He's a major contributor on this show. He knows that. I don't need to say it publicly. Kyle knows that and appreciates that as well. But Noah's being spread pretty thin. He's on, of course, he hosts Pacific Horseplayers. He's on the leaderboard on Wednesdays every other week. He's going to be on our Weekend Warrior Saturday shows more often once his TDN job is over. He's changing his schedule or not. And no, we already see Noah on 3 different shows. And with Charlie, hitting the books with law school and whatnot, I felt like it was the right time to make a bit of a change with Bettin and Boozin. So we have a brand new, and I'm really excited to have this gentleman on. We have a brand new co-host starting next week, fingers crossed. And I'm not going to say who it is. All I'm going to say is his sports teams are big rivals with Patrick Kunzel's sports teams. And Patrick, of course, is a New Jersey, New York fan. So you can read into that any way you want. But we're bringing on a new co-host starting next week. Noah, of course, will be on Bettin and Boozin at some point. In fact, what we really need to do, guys, if we can get Charlie out of his law school books, I'd love to have like a 4-team, 4-person reunion. The original Bettin and Boozin guys, all 4 of you. That'd be really cool sometime. Kyle, we'll have to talk about that. But the big announcement is that Noah is really not going to be on Bettin and Boozin very much at all anymore. I'm bringing on a brand new co-host. And again, this is absolutely not a demotion. Actually, it's a promotion because Noah's on 2 or 3 other shows. And what happened?
What does that mean? It's off my show.
Well, promotion. No, promotion. The fact that we have him on more shows, not that he's off this show.
I'm kidding.
Anyway, I know. But anyway, no, I really appreciate all your contributions with Bettin and Boozin. Like I said, this is not a goodbye for this show because you'll be on at some point with a reunion or a fill-in or whatever the situation is. But Pat's been coaching football or not coaching, refereeing football and doing some other things. And Kyle, I just felt like it was the right time to bring on another person. I know you agree with that. So to have a little more of a steady kind of a co-host on the show. So Noah, thanks a lot, man. Awesome. We're not doing anything with the logo. It's still going to be there. We're still going to have you. We're still going to have you on the show. Cal, we got to get that original 4-person B&B reunion going.
Oh, we'll get that, but the one guy is only going to want to cover Gulfstream Park, so we'll have to mix something up in there. But obviously, Noah, thanks so much as always, my friend. I mean, you said the chemistry we've been able to build over the last 2 years now at this point, 2.5 years has been fantastic. Obviously, you'll be on my show, I'll be on your show. It'll all work out some way or another. Lateral move would be more correct, but of course, Howard basically referred to my show as the AHL versus the NHL, but it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. he's doing. Oh my God! Did
you see Jim's comment at the bottom?
You see, no, there's enough income. That Great Clips doesn't do the job anymore, unfortunately. Right. But anyway, Noah, thanks again as always, my friend. Definitely, this will not be the last of Noah on Bettin and Boozin, and I can promise you that for sure. But for my co-host Noah Maher and the host and Pegs and Ponies and founder of the HHH Racing Podcast, Howard Kravitz, I've been your host, Kyle Roscoe, for episode 157 of Bettin and Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast, brought to you by our good friends over at TwinSpires. And until next time, everybody, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one.
Pacific Horseplayers coming up next.
It is coming up next. He's not even doing his own promotional show. But anyway, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, guys. So about 20 minutes, Pacific Horseplayers will be on. And crush your bets at Churchill Downs this Friday and Del Mar Turf Racing Festival. Have a good night, everyone.